Time for Crossroads Football Live with Sports Director Gino Perez and Sports Reporter Zach Brown. Crossroads Football Live is sponsored by Palace Bingo, Frost Bank, Full Pep, Victoria Dodge Jeep Ram Wagoneer, and Victoria College.
Howdy, Crossroads, and welcome to Week 3 of Crossroads Football Live. I'm your host, Gino Perez. Well, starting off, we would check in with sports reporter Zach Brown, who is in Refugio for the game of the week. But this game lived up to the hype and is still going on, so we'll check with him later. Towards the end of the show, we'll check with highlights and scores from all around the Crossroads football area, and this is the most jam-packed it has been all year. Now, like I said, we would have heard from the winning coach, but instead we're going to see highlights from the first half between number 2 and number 3 in Refugio and Edna. Last year, the Bobcats pulled the upset, but the Cowboys fresh off a win over number 8 Bay City last week. Meanwhile, Refugio looking to keep its dominant streak going. Refugio fumbled on its first offensive possession, and a bad thing to do that allows Edna to strike quickly on some play action that those two had worked on all week last week. Edna defense stiff early, gets the ball right inside Decade Rodas, pounding it in. Edna extra point good, but it's 13-0. The Bobcats strike quickly with a screen pass from Keelan Brown to Chai Whitmore, who shows off that gold medalist speed and cuts that lead to only 7, I believe. Jaden Clay under center, looking for somebody, getting bum rushed, and in the back of the end zone, perfect strike to Miguel Reyes. But right before halftime, Refugio was able to do a miracle Hail Mary, basically, as Keelan Brown hooks up with number 40 in the back of the end zone. Like I mentioned, the score to this game is tied. There was 20 seconds last time we checked. It's probably going to overtime, but we do not know yet. And remember how I said how Cuero and Yoakum could be the game of the week? Well, they proved it tonight. Cuero looking to lock up the Dogs, and the Bulldogs looking to hunt down the Turkeys. Nataro dropping back and scrambling, and he throws it right to the defense. Xavier Barnett with the pick. He's got blockers in front of him, and it's a pick 6 for Yoakum. Are they going to spoil the show? Cuero answers back. This time the lineman doing its job and moving the pile like it's rugby. Score 14-14 in the first. D1 quarterback Zach Taylor for the Bulldogs goes deep, and he is behind the Gobbler defense. Bye. Call him in sync because he is sailing to the end zone. Shout out to all the 90s babies out there. There was 40 points scored in the first quarter in this game, and this game is still going on as well. This is the oldest rivalry in the state, 41-34. Cuero with the lead with about 3 minutes left in that game. Cuero will play Cal Allen next week, no matter what happens, and Yoakum will take on the Calhoun Sandcrabs. What an exciting 2 games that we've had that are still going on. Coming up after the break, we'll check in with Zach, who is in Refugio, and we'll see highlights from Victoria East, West, where I was. So grab a drink and a snack, but don't go anywhere because, of course, we'll be right back. We saw two crazy games in the first half. Now the second part, I'm sure it will not disappoint either. We start with the East Titans. Down at Memorial Stadium, the Victoria East Titans honored those who were lost in the attacks on 9/11, but having local first responders at the game. Gregory Portland getting the ball after its first methodical drive, and Gabriel Juarez gets in, follows his blockers, and nearly goes untouched for the first score of the game, 7-0 GP. The Wildcats came into this game undefeated on the year and heading into tonight. On the ensuing kickoff, East getting a little tricky. We see Coach Reeve using that noggin, using a reverse, and this time it's Nazarel Prater. He's down the sideline and gone. He goes 80+ yards for the score, but the extra point is missed. After multiple East penalties, GP still leads 7-6. A couple drives later, East is punting and looking as if GP will take it at the 20, but it's muffed and East recovers inside the red zone. The special teams for East are coming up big. A couple of plays later, Landon Partita connects with Bryson Ortega for the 16-yard grab. East is up 12-7 in the first. East again with the ball, and Prater had one big play. Well, he said, let me make it two. He doesn't score on this one, but he goes 30+ yards, giving them great field position. From the Wildcat formation, pardon the pun there, Jaden Williams keeps it, and he goes in 20-7 East with the lead. And GP needing a spark, and none other than the quarterback Reed Dooms. As he said, this is doomsday when I run the ball. He outruns the East defense and goes in for the score, 20-14 with a 6-point lead in the second. Victoria East could not get the offense going. Gregory Portland stays undefeated. They win 49-27. The Titans will take on CC Carroll next. And I promised you that Zach Brown is in Refugio, and we are going to check in with him to see what is going on in Refugio. Zach, what's going on?
Well, I'll tell you what, my football playing days, long gone. I'm sweaty, I'm out of breath. This Edna Refugio game is our game of the week, is everything you could have asked for. Refugio driving, ooh, it's in overtime. I'm sorry, guys, I'm a little excited right now. Last year, Refugio upset Edna. Edna trying to return the favor on the road after a huge victory over Bay City last week. Now, Edna started this game up 13-0. Refugio was all out of sorts, turnovers everywhere, but Refugio did make it a one-possession game going into halftime. But to start the half, Refugio got the ball back, another turnover. But since then, Edna has been bitten by the turnover bug a little bit themselves, but they did show some of that cardiac cowboy in them that Coach Sheldon Moore said last year. They were able to score a touchdown with less than a couple of minutes to go, went for the 2-point conversion to tie the game with under a minute and a half left. And, well, it led us to where we are now. Keelan Brown, 4-star commit Ernest Campbell on Refugio, and a bunch of big, talented seniors from Edna. Jaden Clay leading the way. Edna has really done a good job of controlling the time of possession, trying to wear down that Refugio defense, which, of course, a lot of those guys are two-way players, so it wears them down on the offensive side of the ball. The problem is Refugio is one of the most athletic teams in the entire state of Texas. This is one of the best showdowns. What just happened? Okay, so Refugio, on their first possession in the second overtime, has scored, which is going to put the ball back in Edna's hands. So that pretty much means it's do or die for Edna. Edna obviously not scared of the big moment. They were able to come back late in this one. Refugio, however, did strike first. So I'm going to go on to send this back to Gino. I got some highlights to go shoot. Reporting live, Zach Brown, KVU TV 25, News Now Sports.
I'm definitely jealous, that's for sure. But now we go to Victoria West looking for its first win. Alice coming in 1-1 in the 5A, 4A matchup. Alice's Lucian Cruz comes up big in the quarterback position. And I love those jerseys right there, the burnt orange. Shout out Longhorns as they take on Alabama tomorrow. But that's enough for that. Rodriguez catches the ball for the first down, but the play, or the drive rather, would stall, and they could not get anything going. Meanwhile, West going for it on a 4th down, and they could not get it. We'll go ahead and see how Victoria West did in that game as they go on to lose that game. They're still looking for their first victory of the year. Alice Coyotes win 36-25. The West Warriors will take on CC King next week. And then we'll go on to the highlights for the Tidehaven Tigers looking to go swimming with the Palacios Sharks. The Sharks shot themselves in the foot early on a botched snap, and this would give the Tigers an easy 1-yard score early on in the game. Next drive, the Tidehaven Tigers run a bootleg with quarterback Kel Russell, who throws it up to his big man, who basically could dive into the end zone for the score. Again, Tidehaven in Palacios territory, this time on a drag route. Quarterback rolling to his right, hits him, and he goes in for the score about 15 yards out. This one gets out of hand. Tigers are up by multiple scores, and one of the top running backs in the area, maybe even the state, Joseph Dodds, he says, "I want to turn," and powers his way in for the score. This one ended pretty badly as Tidehaven gets the shutout. They are ranked number 3 in the state, but they go on to beat Palacios 56-0. The Tigers will take on the Industrial Cobras. Meanwhile, the Sharks take on Rice Consolidated. And speaking of the Industrial Cobras, they are riding high after last week's big win over Shiner. Let's see if they could keep it up. With just seconds left in the first quarter, bowling special teams do something special. The Bulldog return man slips through like a slip and slide all the way down the sideline for the 90-yard punt return. Bulldogs lead 7-0. Bowling getting a prime opportunity in the red zone, and this time they're going to go to their running back, handing it off on the jet sweep, and he gets in right before the pylon. 14-0. Bowling with the lead. Can Ashton Garza, athlete of the week, lead his team back to victory? Let's find out. He said he wanted to go to the air more. This time he does. He fakes the handoff, throws it right over the middle, and it is caught. Prime opportunity. He said, "You know what? I've done enough this drive. I'll hand it off to Cooper Martin." Cooper Martin this time getting the ball and plowing his way in for the first score of the night. 14-7 going into halftime, and the Industrial Cobras take the lead 26-21. Tidehaven will take on Industrial. That'll be a good game next week. Now, this game was in a delay for a while due to the rain and lightning. Can you believe it rained in South Texas? Well, let's check on the scores from around the area, and there are a lot of them. We start with the St. Joseph Flyers taking on St. Andrews Highlanders. They lose 22-6. Next, and they'll be taking on Brownsville St. Joe next game. Calhoun Sand Crabs get the victory over the Sinton Pirates. They improved to 2-1, way better than they did last year. They'll take on the Yoakum Bulldogs next week, and that'll be a tough one because Yoakum took Cuero to the brink tonight. Next up, we go to the El Campo Ricebirds. They get their first win of the year. I can't believe that. Veterans Memorial is a 5A school, El Campo a 4A school. They get the win 35-28. El Campo will take on Wharton to see if they can continue that one-game win streak. Goliad Tigers looking sharp this year as they take care of business against the Cole Cougars, who were undefeated heading into tonight's game, 63-6. Next up, Houndsville Brahmas. They stay undefeated, 46-0 over the Van Vleck Leopards. The Brahmas, that is, will take on Piper next week. The Bloomington Bobcats, a shutout win, 42-0 over the Pettis War Eagles. Bloomington is off because of that Runge game, the Runge team moving from 11-man to 6-man. Next up, we got Ganado, and they fall to East Bernard, their first loss on the year, 35-27. They'll take on Danbury next week. And the last score of the night, the Shiner Comanches are 0-3. Can you believe it? 0-3. The Poth Pirates, they are a good team, but they win 31-7. Shiner will take on East Bernard, who just came up with a big victory this year. And I lied to y'all, sorry, we have more scores. Yorktown gets the win last night, 50-0 over the Woodsboro Eagles. Yorktown will take on Stockdale next week. And lastly, the Brazos Wayless Cougars, 44-12 over the Louise Hornets. The Cougars stay undefeated, 3-0. Louise will take on the Hallettsville Sacred Heart Indians next week. Now, this is the first win for Ryan Knotzman, and he was named head coach earlier in the year. Well, thank you for joining us for Crossroads Football Live. Don't forget, we got the podcast tonight as well. Have a good night, Crossroads.